You all know what this is. Let's continue. Her cheerful greeting was as fresh as the morning itself.
相変わらず早いな。たまにはのんびり朝寝坊したっていいんだぜ。
寝坊したら圭一君を待たせちゃうじゃない。
She's so conscientious and such a good person.
そん時は置いてく。
圭一君冷たい。いつも待っててあげてるのに。
サクサク置いてく。キリキリ置いてく。
どうして冷たいんだろう。
Hold on, before we continue, I want to see what their console sprites were. Settings, character sprites, console, remake, console. I think I'm gonna keep with the remake ones. Rena had a slightly troubled look on her face. Toying with her was rather fun because of how quickly her mood changed.
嘘。ちゃんと待ってるよ。
With those words, Rena seemed to relax. Her face flushed bright red.
ありがとう。
レナが来るまでずーっと待ってる。いつまでも。
ずっと。
Rena turned bright red, steam rising from her head as her brain short-circuited. She's especially weak to this sort of talk. It's quite rare to find someone this fun to tease.
レナはロマンスものの文庫本は読んだことあるか？
ないよ。読んだことない。
From that response, I gathered she was interested in them, but was too embarrassed to actually buy one. I couldn't imagine what would happen if she did read one. She'd probably turn red and pass out.
そうそう。お袋から伝言。漬物サンキューでしたって。
どういたしまして。どうだった？しょっぱくなかったかな？
They weren't that salty. Actually, they had a pretty light flavor to them. It would have been fine to just be honest and say they were good, but apparently I couldn't be that forthright.
その前に聞きたい。あの漬物を漬けたのはレナか？レナのお母さんか？
なんで聞くんだろう。しょっぱかった？
Her attitude completely changed as she began to panic frantically.
レナか？レナのお母さんか？
なんで作った人聞くんだろう。太郎。
どっちが作ったかで感想が著しく変わる。
She counted frantically on her fingers, trying to remember the amount of salt she'd used to pickle them. It wasn't like I was trying to tease her, but I couldn't stop myself. Guys who take pleasure in this kind of thing are probably the worst guys like me. Rena nervously opened and closed her mouth over and over, trying to muster a response.
レナだけど。
うまかった。前回に続きなかなかだったぜ。飯との相性は最高だった。
Her face went bright red again. She was completely spacing out. It truly was a lot of fun to tease her. I pray that Rena never gets taken advantage of by some lowlife. Keep at it, Rena. I'll train you until you handle it like the average person. Or so I decided for myself.
行こうぜ。ミオンを待たせるとあいつうるさいぞ。
Seeing as she just keeps spacing out otherwise, I called Rena back to reality so we could make our way to school. This strange, easily flustered girl is Rena Ryugu. I've only known her for about a month, but I've come to realize it's not just her name that's strange. Coming up to the next rendezvous point, we saw another person waiting for us. Noticing us, she waved.
お、来た来た。遅い。
いつも遅いのはお前の方だろ。
In sharp contrast to the diligent Rena, this one marched to the beat of her own drum. She's Mion Sonozaki. From what it's worth, she's our senior and head of the class.
おはようレナ。そしてケイちゃんお久しぶり。何年ぶりだっけ
2日しか休んでねえよ。
そうだっけか前に会った時はこんなにちっちゃくて可愛かったのにな。
Mion's gaze started at my chest, then dropped straight down, focusing on the point between my legs. So, she was saying it. Was my crotch that was cuter back then? Before you ask, just to be clear, I've never actually tried to show it to her. I've grown quite splendidly. You'd be surprised. Not only is he bigger, but he has a little mustache now. My gosh. Being so engorged with energy every morning is quite a problem though. I'll introduce you next time, so be sure to greet him properly. Don't say next time. Right now it's just fine. How about letting the little guy get a breath of fresh morning air? I don't think I've ever heard talk so dirty you could smell it fouling up the morning air before. Mion sure does act like an old man sometimes. Gotcha. Time for the big reveal. Hope you don't regret it. As my hand reached for my fly, Rena began to ramble in a near panic. Red-faced and flustered, Rena tried to play dumb, but it was obvious she knew exactly what we were talking about.
どうだった？久しぶりの都会はさ。
Mion switched gears, dropping the dirty talk and changing to the topic to something more befitting, the pleasant morning.
葬式で行っただけだぜ。慌ただしいだけだったよ。
でさ、探しといてくれた？頼んどいたやつ。
お前、人の話聞いてないだろ。俺は葬式で帰っただけだぜ。おもちゃ屋巡りをしてる余裕なんかなかったんだよ。
ち。おもちゃ屋とホビーショップは全然違うよ。特に洋物、こっちじゃなかなか手に入らないからね。みーちゃんまたゲームの話？
Mion nodded proudly as Rena giggled.
そう、ケイちゃんに洋芸のカタログを持ってきてもらいたかったんだけどね。
Westport was short for Western Imported Games. Using that abbreviation did make it sound pretty geeky.
そんなのまた通販で取り寄せりゃいいじゃねえか。
ま、そうするかな。またプレイングの熱いゲームを入荷するからね。今度は私にもわかりやすいゲームがいいな。
Mion is a board and card game enthusiast, and I hear she's collected quite a lot of different ones. According to Rena, Mion's room has kind of become a museum for domestic and foreign games.
俺にもわかりそうなゲームがあったらやらせてくれよ。
へえ、いいよ。ケイちゃんさえ良ければね。でもうちらのレベルは高いよ。
Give me a second, the music's really loud. Okay, that should probably fix it. Voice volume will lower you by 1. Close.
上等じゃねえか。俺だって遊び100番遅れを取るつもりはないぜ。
はあ。じゃあ今度はケイチ君も仲間に加わるのかな。
Bristling with joy from head to toe, Rena looked back and forth between me and Mion. Mion gave her an affirmative wink, and her expression perked up even further.
男の子ってきっと外で遊ぶ方が好きだと思ってたからダメかと思ってたよ。
Rena laughed happily. From such a friendly conversation, you wouldn't think I had moved here less than a month ago. I understood that they did all they could to make a transfer student like me feel at home. I'll have to try harder to fit in, so they won't feel like they have to try to make me feel welcome. I felt like if I acted a bit more open than I usually am, it should probably be about right for this place. Hinamizawa was a really small village. Not only was there one school, but there was only one class. The class encompasses all different grades and ages. There are about 30 students at different levels, and they all study in the same class. I'm told that long ago there used to be a bigger school building, and they had actual separate classes. However, it seems something happened that made it become a single class, and now it stayed that way, out of tradition. I was shocked at first, but humans adapt pretty quickly. I've already gotten quite used to it. The sound of children playing started right from the morning. With such a lively mood, it felt more like a kindergarten than a proper school. Not that that was a bad thing. Mion, who had been walking in front of us up until then, suddenly let me take the lead, right in front of the classroom door. So, I was meant to slide the door open and enter the room first. Heh? Too bad. I wasn't going to fall for that again.
ここで先頭を譲るとはな。お手並み拝見ってことかよ。
Mion chuckled with a haughty smirk on her face.
どうしたの二人とも。
下がってろレナ。危ないぞ。やつだ。
え？じゃあ、さとこちゃんが？
Her name was Satoko Hojo. She was a disrespectful, impudent, bossy kid. The way she talks was annoying, but it would be immature to get worked up over just that. The real problem was this.
見え見えの罠だな。引き戸の上に挟んだ黒板消し。見え見えだぜ、サトコ。
A haughty laugh came from beyond the door.
お見事、ケイちゃん。こりゃ今回は勝負あったかな。
いや、相手はサトコだ。これだけとは思えない。
After falling for such intricate traps since the day I transferred, I no longer let my guard down. Satoko liked to combine a variety of traps that were simply there to bait you into the main one, traps that relentlessly kept coming at you like a sadistic Rube Goldberg machine. The list goes on. As well as being clever, they almost never misfire. When you least expect it, she strikes. No escape, no time to relax.
見たところ黒板消しは普通。石とかは入れてないみたいだな。
I took a pretty heavy hit from the blackboard eraser loaded with rocks on my first day.
じゃあさ、ガラガラって開けて落としちゃえばいいんじゃないかな。
それだ。
That's what Satoko was after, making me focus my attention upward, so as I lifted my hand to the door. There were thumbtacks stuck to the sliding door handle with tape, a frightening trap. A potent and terrifying trap. Concealed by using the blackboard eraser.
見事なコンボだ、サトコ。だが、所詮はガキの浅知恵だったな。
Assured of my victory, I threw the door open and stepped into the room. I felt something strange at my ankle. It was similar to the sensation of a jump rope catching my leg. By the time I realized she had me, hook, line, and sinker, it was already too late. I began to fall in an almost picturesque manner. Instinctively, reacting to Mion's shrill warning, I twisted my body in midair before I landed on the floor. An ink stone, filled to the brim, was placed right where I could have landed. I shuddered, imagining the situation had I landed square on it. Hold on, let's see what she looks like in the PS3 sprites. Console remake. I mean, neither is particularly better. I think I'm gonna stick to this one. Still sprawled in an awkward position, I was greeted by a mocking voice.
一段とスペシャルなトラップワークになったじゃないか、サトコ。
私何のことかわかりませんもの。朝からついてませんわね。
てめえ。
It seemed I'd inadvertently sprained my back a little when I landed. Better than landing on that inkstone. A small hand gently rubbed my head. Let's see what she looks like in original. Well, on PS2, I believe. Settings. Console. Oh yeah, we're definitely keeping remake.
圭一の痛いの飛んでいけです。
The small, dainty hand continued to gently stroke my head.
腰とかはくじかなかったですか？こうして撫でていれば痛いのは消えてきますです。
I thought about asking how rubbing my head would help my back, but I didn't. It's not so much about what you actually do, it's the thought that counts.
ありがとな。リカちゃんのおかげで痛みが引いてきたぜ。わ
あ、リカちゃん、おはよう。レナにおはようございます。みんなにもおはようございますです。
Rika-chan greeted each of us with an adorable little bow. It was infectious. Rena, Mion, and I all bowed back.
リカちゃんはいい子だよな。それに比べてサトコは。
I glared over in her direction. Satoko was whistling while rather deliberately trying to avoid eye contact.
サトコはいい子でございますのことよ。
いい子はこんな凶悪な罠仕掛けないぞ。
言いがかりでございますわ。何の証拠があって。うわあ。
I picked up Satoko by the back of her collar. She looked like a misbehaved cat when I do this. But a cat wouldn't be setting traps. She's much harder to deal with.
ごめんなさいって言ってみな。言わないなら。
I cocked my index finger on my thumb, letting it tremble as I brought it closer to Satoko's forehead.
暴力反対ですの。証拠もないのに。
言っとくが俺のデコピンはすごく痛い。ベニヤくらいなら割る。やめて、
やらないでけだもの。
人様が聞いたら誤解するような言い方をするんじゃねえ。
A small hand tugged on the back of my shirt.
圭一が2日間もお休みしたから寂しかったのです。
Rika-chan really is just so. How could I do anything more after being told that? I gently released my grip on Satoko, who at this point was on the verge of tears. She still had her eyes clamped shut as she braced herself for the forehead flick.
悔しくなんかないもん。泣いちゃダメです、サトコ。ファイト、おーです。
Rika-chan, oh, there's no chan there. Rika gently petted the head of her prankster friend. You would never guess those two are the same age. I think Satoko could learn a thing, or a million, from Rika-chan.
今度はもっとすごい罠を仕掛けなさいですよ。
Wait a minute. As she observed the scene, Rena's expression grew ecstatic as she began to swoon.
サトコちゃん泣いてる。かわいいよ。
She's slurring her speech.
持ち帰っちゃダメだからね。いや、だってこんなにかわいいよ。どんなに可愛くてもダメなの。でもちょっとくらいならダメかな。ダメかな。
Rena kept a cutesy face even as outrageous ideas spewed from her mouth. According to Mion, Rena is ridiculously weak to cute things and always tries to take them home. Object or person.
物もまずいが誘拐はもっとまずいぞ。諦めろ。
じゃあ見てるだけだよ。それならいいよね。よね。
Rena swooned over Satoko's crying form. If a girl ever goes missing in Hinamizawa, I'll be forced to turn Rena in to the authorities. Forgive me, Rena. I'll be sure to bring you care packages when they put you away.
先生来たよ。早く片付ける。サトコ、すずりあんたのでしょ。
Just from Mion's single statement, the entire mood of the room shifted back to normal. The inkstone was bad, but the thumbtacks stuck to the door handle were an even bigger problem. I pulled the tape off carefully, making sure not to skewer myself. Even though Satoko was the one who set it up, everyone had to pick up after her. By the time the teacher entered the room, the bed lamp from before had been neatly tied up.
間に合ったね。起立。気をつけ。
Mion gave out the morning commands. It's difficult being the teacher for all these different grades in one classroom. She has to teach something different to each one. But naturally, she ends up spending all her time with the younger kids. Rena and Mion, being in the highest grade in the class, end up mostly doing self-study. They even end up helping teach younger kids, so it seems like they can never get to their own studies. They're actually way behind where my studies have progressed to. As a result, I'm pretty much taking over for the teacher and helping Rena and Mion with their studies.
ケイチ君はお勉強教えるのうまいね。わかりやすいよ。
Rena took a breather after finishing highlighting an important section.
教える端から自信がなくなるよ。自分の理解の浅さがわかるな。
人に教えるには3倍理解してなければならないって言うしね。ケイちゃんもうちらに教えながら同時に復習もできてるわけなんだよ。
In contrast, this person over here is quite laissez-faire about things. For one, isn't she supposed to be in a higher grade than me?
ミオンさ、一言じゃないぞ。真剣にやんないとまずいぜ。こんなレベルじゃ。
別に進学校を目指すわけでもないし、受験に必要なそこそこができてりゃ十分十分。
Her staunch defiance was really something else. This was a different type of relax than somebody who already knew what was going to be on the entrance exams.
みーちゃん、ケイチ君が頑張って教えてくれるんだからさ、私たちも頑張ろうよ。
レナは素直ないい子だな。先生がきっといい学校に進学させてやるからな。
ありがとう。
レナには特に教えてやるからな。二人きりでプライベートレッスンだぞ。
Okay, that was funny.
プライベートレッスン。
A puff of smoke, shaped like a halo, popped out of Rena's head. Exactly what kind of private lesson is she fantasizing about that's making her turn so red? I'd like to hear the play-by-play of that next time. While Mion was flipping through her vocabulary flashcards, she threw out a casual question.
都会じゃさ、こんなに勉強しなきゃいけないわけ？
この程度はできないと進学できないね。
進学できないから勉強するわけ？
まあ、平たく言えばそうなるな。将来役に立たないのは承知で。
こっちじゃさ、出席日数が足りてりゃみんな進学できるんだよ。
そうなのか？
Study equals entrance exams. Having that basic law of the universe so easily overturned sent me into a state of shock.
そうかもね。試験で振り落とさなきゃならないほど人もいないし。誰でも進学できるならさ、そんなにガリガリとやることもないんじゃない？
まあそうだけど、でも一般常識程度にはできた方が。
おじさんはそんな無駄な勉強に時間をかけるよりさ、この思春期の貴重な時間をもっと有意義に過ごすために使うべきじゃないかなと考えるわけよ。
Okay, I'll admit, they probably should have used the word geezer instead of fart when the go dub for Funimation. I think it was Funimation, right? Well, whoever did the subtitles for Go, they should have just said geezer. I think that probably would have been better. It was too profound of a statement to simply laugh off. But since it was me, it probably didn't actually have that deep of a meaning. In place of a chime, the sound of the principal waving a handbell drifted through the classroom.
ケイちゃん、おしまいおしまい。さあ、楽しいランチタイム。
In a complete 180 from her unmotivated state, Mion gave the commands that signaled the end of the morning period.
ケイチ君、お昼にしよう。
I might have been making a very troubled face. Anna smiled brightly at me.
よっしゃ、飯にするか。
There seemed to be a different cliques, even within the class. Most of them were divided by gender and age, but our group was different. Our ages were different, and we had both boys and girls. You mean you have boy and girls. But we weren't reserved around each other. The level of openness makes a transfer student like me pretty happy. Rena and Neon pushed their desks together so they were facing each other. All the same time, Satoko and Rika-chan were slowly lugging their desks over as well. Rena waved her chopsticks in an unrefined manner, trying to hurry me along. Unless everyone was together, they wouldn't even open their lunchboxes. How nice. Even though Satoko was hurling insults at me, she still wouldn't open the lid to her lunchbox until I was there. I pulled out my lunchbox swiftly and dragged my chair over to join the circle.
Oh, omatase!
At first, this was kind of embarrassing, but I got used to it pretty fast. At this point, I probably wouldn't even open my own lunchbox if someone else was too slow. Our ages and genders may have all been different. Your gender is different, but everyone else's is the same. But we were all friends. The sound of our little 5-part chorus echoed beautifully throughout the classroom. Really though, I've gotten pretty used to this group made up of all girls. Of course, there were other boys in the class, but they were a lot younger, so they were scared to approach me. Well, that's to be expected. I wonder if this has a different remake look. Okay, menu, settings. Does this change? Console. Oh, remake. Okay, so I guess all the CGs are stuck on console. That's fine. Younger boys just see older boys as scary. Not always. Not always. Compared to girls, well, at least these girls aren't picky. We put all the side dishes in the middle, where everyone was free to pick at them. I thought girls would mind sharing a meal with a guy, so I was a bit flustered joining in. However, Mion noticed that and teased me quite a bit. As the fruit of my efforts, I can now reach over and take sides from anyone's lunch. Buying into the fight that Satoko was starting, our chopsticks locked in a cross-counter, stabbing into each other's lunches.
Oh, 里芋がいい感じだぞ。煮物は冷めててもうまいよな。
After seeing my happy face, Rika-chan's expression broke into a little smile. By the way, Satoko and Rika-chan's lunches are always the same. It seems that Rika-chan makes it for both of them every day.
この煮物もリカちゃんが作ったのかい？こいつはお袋の味クラスだよな。
I was honestly impressed. The carrot rosettes weren't from a mold. They were done by hand with a knife. That's not easy to do.
リカちゃんって何気にそういうの得意なんだよな。お裁縫とかお洗濯とかも上手なの。
Ah. Okay. So, we all know how old this character really is. If they know how to do that and cook, ladies and gentlemen, just wait like 8 years or so. It's just pick number 1, then pick number 2 would be her, then 3, then 4. Because by 8 years she'll probably be over 20. I'm kidding. That's a terrible joke.
すごいよね。すごいよね。リカはいろいろとすごいんですのよ。
お前が威張ることじゃねえ。
僕よりレナの方がお料理は上手です。
It seemed that the topic of conversation switched to Rena when she wasn't expecting it, making her blush and trip over her words. Rena's lunch really was the star of the table. Not only did it look good, it tasted good. Everyone else pulled from Rena's lunchbox constantly.
これ前に評判良かったからいっぱい作ってみたの。美味しいかな？
かなり合格点。あ、ミオ、お前取りすぎだよ。
Knocking Mion's chopsticks aside, I reached out trying to secure my own portion. Satoko and Rika-chan reached over at the same time, and a struggle ensued. Everyone shoveled in mouthful after mouthful while praising it, and Rena's lunchbox was soon empty. It was kind of bad that no one thought to leave any for Rena. But Rena seemed rather satisfied as she looked on.
いかがかしら。レナさんもとてもお料理が上手ですことよ。
You know, when I was in high school, there was a group of people with us. This also happened in middle school, but in middle school it's a bit different. In high school, we would just kind of sit around each other, and we wouldn't share food like this, but what we did was, if someone didn't like whatever the government lunch was, they would give the government lunch to someone who had extra food. Either they brought it from home or something, and they would trade up with it. You would get less food, but it would taste better, because sometimes the government lunch wasn't properly cooked or something. Now, when we were in middle school, however, man, it was the fucking black market almost, man. People literally had, okay, I'll trade you X for Y. And at some points, people started trading lunch food with each other for either stuff that was brought from home, or in one case, they were trading certain lunch items for cigarettes. It was really bad at the time. Some people got arrested. It wasn't very good, but it's true. Sometimes, apparently, sometimes the government lunch isn't that bad. And also, you would also trade food from home. They would trade that for cigarettes or some Playboys or some other medium, because quite honestly, this was a rather ignorant location in terms of what they knew about the world. Therefore, at times like that, there was this sense of fun that could be had during that time that I don't think I can actually have anymore. Because a lot of people got in trouble. A lot of people are not with me anymore. I don't hang out with them. In fact, I'm glad I don't hang out with them. It was a pretty dangerous time in my life. And I'm glad I left the environment. But at the same time, I can't deny the fact that some of it was fun. I would trade some stuff for like cards or something. And I would trade for Yu-Gi-Oh cards at one point. Somebody would be, hey man, I know you like this game. You want to give me that? Whatever the hell I brought that day. We would switch stuff. The one that got a lot of trades was cup noodles. Like, one cup noodle was pretty much the highest thing you could bring. Well, because just everyone liked it. It was cheap too, but nobody wanted to heat it up. So what there happened was, there was one girl who used to bring an electronic kettle, and how she never got in trouble goes beyond me. But she would actually charge some students like $1 to fill up their. She would get tap water, heat it up, and then fill up their noodles. She would charge them $1, and she just raked in absurd amounts of cash back then. When we were in middle school, it was a lot less technical. It was a lot less economy based, and just more of a friendship thing. It was like, oh, you have this, I have this. You want to trade X, Y, Z. That was more of a fun thing that happened. But when that happened, it was a bit different. And I gotta say, I'm really glad I can share my experiences on the internet, because for the most part, most people don't want to listen to me talk about this. And I'm glad I can relate to this. This was nice.
ケイイチさんとは大違いですの。
だからお前が威張ることじゃねえだろ。
サトコだってケイちゃんと変わらないじゃんよ。あんたブロッコリーとカリフラワーの区別つくようになったわけ？
Okay, so everybody, I'm going to ask you guys to go check out Anomalous Spinal Cord Specimen Lambda Delta's channel. He runs this joke into the fucking ground. I think it's a he, because in one of his videos, he has a comment that says, "I'm a 19-year-old woman with a fat ass," but in the same comment, he also says, "I'm a 30-plus-year-old man with muscles and high-paying job," or something. It was great. I'll link his channel in the description for this video. Honestly, he's so funny. He also has a fanfic series. It's hilarious. I highly do not recommend anyone under the age of 18 actually watch his content. But for the time being, I'm just gonna let you guys know, it's funny as hell. Satoko's face went pale.
おいおい、ブロッコリーとカリフラワーの違いなら俺だってわかるぜ。わかり
ますもの。わかるもん。
It's really hard for her to lie.
ケイチくん、どっちでも茹でてマヨネーズかけると美味しいじゃない？いじめちゃかわいそうだよ。みーちゃんも。
Then Hurley tried to follow up, but Mion laughed hotly as she grew closer to Satoko.
まあまあ、家庭科の授業ってことで。じゃあ、さとこ、これは？
Mion lifted up her chopsticks. Between them was a piece of green stuff wrapped in bacon.
でもそれ、アスパラ。
Mion made eye contact with me, and within 3 seconds I had Rika-chan's mouth covered. Holding a piece of bacon wrapped asparagus and giving her 2 choices. She's pretty terrible.
その、黄色がカリフラワー、緑がカリフラさあ、どっちだ？多分、黄色がブロッコリーで、青がカリフラワー。でも緑は
That's cute.
本当にどっちか分かってる？降参した方が良くない？
I'd expect no less from the class representative, the oldest. The way she drives people into a corner just shows how much experience she has. This is just a hunch, but being brought up into the Sonosaki household must be quite the ordeal.
わかりますもの。わかるもん。じゃあ答えなよ。わかるもん。わかる
I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing at this scene. I really don't. But it's the whole, when you know what happens later on, when you've actually seen the whole story from beginning to end, stuff like this on a rewatch makes you laugh more. It's so funny. She finally broke down and started crying. When she acts like this, she actually starts to seem her age. She's 10, right? Right? Okay. So there's always one person that slurs their speech in these series. So in this case, it's Rena. In Uminako, it's Erika. And then, as far as I'm aware, it's I think it's one of the ground mole ones. There's either Koshka or the other one. Rena entered a state of euphoria as Satoko bawled her eyes out. Rena was in a state of bliss as she rubbed her cheeks against Satoko's head and smothered her. Ignore that. I know. Bad joke and all of that, but come on. I gotta have some fun. Anyway, this was recorded on Father's Day. I gave my dad a nice hug. We watched The Exorcist and episode 7 of Happy Sugar Life together. It was great. Very fun. Not very scary, either of them. We were told that they were horror, but honestly, we feel a bit disappointed. And The Exorcist is supposed to be the #1 horror of all time. It's really not that scary. I guess it's just that we've been exposed to so many horror movies that we're unaffected by it. However, I noticed a trend. I think it's easier to scare the new generation. Because Kikoi and Umineko are not scary. Higurashi's not a scary series. Anime, VN, whatever. They're really not. It is not a scary movie, for example. The Exorcist is not a scary movie. But I hear all these people are terrified of these series, these movies, and all of that. Maybe I'm desensitized to it. But I don't think these can be classified as horror. I really think that Higurashi and Umineko can be classified more as a detective mystery with really good writing. There's a little bit of blood in it, not too much. But for the most part, it's pretty good, you know? In addition, in regards to Kikonia was kind of a comedy, really. I know there's a dark, edgy moments, like you have to kill him up, blah, blah, blah. But it's so ridiculous that I struggle to take it seriously. Don't get me wrong, Umineko and Higurashi are ridiculous. But the premise is much more fun, something you can base it off. For example, I can get into a movie like, say, Iron Man 1, because while Iron Man 1 is still a ridiculous movie, it's a guy in a suit of armor going around fighting a bunch of terrorists. I can get behind that more obviously because it's something that seems technically plausible. Not in 2008, obviously, but in the modern day, that possibility seems closer and closer. But the idea of these kids working for the government and taking all these drugs and having a metal arm on their left arm that allows them to fly to the sky, carry a bunch of weapons and all of this technique, and you require some famous sort of conversion involving your mind. That's less easy to get your head behind, and I also just don't like the cast of Kikoni as much as I like the cast of Higurashi or Umineko, especially Umineko. Well, I like Umineko's Meta World cast, and I like Higurashi's entire cast. The Human World cast, they're all good in their own right, but they're not perfect. But if I had to put of the When They Cry series so far, my favorite characters are, well, number 1 is Rika, obviously. Number 2 would be Battler. Battler's so cool. Honestly, Battler's cool as shit. He's a bit of a crybaby in Chapter 5, but for the most part, he's a cool dude. Then I would have to say Satoko is my 3rd favorite. Then 4th, I'll give it to Beatrice. Note, if I'm counting Satoko and Rika, I'm counting their Umineko counterparts as well. So Burn and Lambda are considered the Satoko and Rika there. Whether or not you believe they're the same character is up to you, but from what I can tell, they seem to be. And then for 5th place, it's Hanyu. Hanyu's so adorable. She really is. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of characters in When They Cry. Just because the one you picked is in the top 5. For example, I like Dalinar a lot. I like Willard a lot. I like Angie a lot. Hell, I actually like Mitake Meow, the eraser version, the blue one. But that doesn't mean it's true for all of them. Okay? Like, Okunogi is on top 10. I just gave out top 5, just for the sake of argument. Really, a very content face. One that wouldn't care if the world ended right then. It was that kind of smile. You know, I gotta ask, because I asked this to my friends, Rena and Maria, and I really don't mean to be offensive here. I'm being dead serious when I ask this. Are they autistic? Okay, I really don't mean this in a mean way. I'm just asking. Are they? Or do they have something else going on? Because this is not how regular people. I could just chalk it up to, oh, this is anime. This is a Japanese medium, fictional medium. So exaggerated appearances and all of that are all into fun. But considering When They Cry likes to play a lot with the mind of the characters, this is something that I actually want to question more. Okay? And also because I've been watching Happy Sugar Life with my dad, and it's really good. You gotta be over 18, guys, okay? I do not recommend that to anyone under 18. That series has some elements that aren't really scary, but are kind of messed up and go against the public morale. Swish, poof, bang. It was like a flash of lightning. Both of Rena's fists shot out at supersonic speed, striking Neon and me squarely in our faces. Before we knew it, Neon and I were sprawled, spread eagle on the floor, staring up at the ceiling with matching welts on our faces. With that, Mion and I both slumped our heads back to the floor in unison. From now on, I'll be careful when I'm within striking distance of Rena. Making sure Rena couldn't see it, Sadako stuck her tongue out at us. Damn it all, using Rena like a puppet. Rika-chan massaged our bruises without saying a word. No matter what the day had held, the last school bell always came too soon. Our shadows stretched off into the distance. I think that the kana comes from the fact that actual cicadas, kana in Japanese onomatopoeia, no kana. I might be wrong about that, but that's what I think. That's why she does that. Kind of like how Maria in Umineko does the ooh ooh thing, because it sounds like seagulls. But does anyone actually make the sound of a stork in Kikonia? I don't remember. I know they make frog noises, kind of. Not really. It was such a direct question from Rena, I inadvertently blushed. But if it was for a date, then wouldn't you do it more subtly? Rena saw me, lost her words, and realized that I'd misunderstood and turned red as well. So apparently, that wasn't what she meant. But since it's always fun when Rena's in a panic, I went along with it a little. Playing it up, I slumped my shoulders, feigning dejection. Unable to hold it in any longer, Mion slapped me on the back. Mion was rolling on the floor, clutching her stomach while Rena flailed around, completely bewildered. I couldn't help but start laughing as well. Feeling just a bit guilty, I ruffled Rena's hair. She really is a cute one. It was only a momentary lapse, but there was no way Mion would let such a delectable detail slip by her. Saying anything more was also a bad idea. In my bewildered state, I slipped further into an unfavorable position. After that, Mion continued to tease me about it for a while. It had been so long that Rena had forgotten. That's how long Mion had teased me. That was true. I'd say it, but if you blindfolded me and spun me around 3 times like we're playing pin the tail on the donkey, I wouldn't be able to tell up from down here. Be honest, gentlemen. Would you be their escort? It's a terrible joke. And once more, I said this last time, but I'll say this again. If there's anyone under the age of 18, please get off this channel. Please get off this channel. That would be a godsend. Frankly, I was happy about the offer. Keiichi, is not a bitch. Okay? Keiichi is a man. What am I even saying? Man, my jokes on this channel are top quality. I like to think. I don't actually think so. Damn, Keiichi-san, they caught you. What are you gonna do? I was being stubborn so as to not give a clear yes or no, even though I thought it was a godsend. I'm too much of a scamp to say so up front. Yes, this is the kind of mentality you gotta take. No, don't actually do this. This is fucked up. Just be a mature person and say yes or no. Okay? These people in these series need to stop messing around. Okay? You just gotta stop. It's not fun. Okay? It was funny the first time. The only series that I actually see doing it well, just making over the top romantic comedy levels of misunderstanding, would have to be Kaguya-sama Love is War. Oh, there's one more. Mischievous Kiss actually did it pretty well. Well, Mion and I had our rather sour back and forth, Dena peeked over at me hesitantly. Figuring I'd been a bit too rough on her, I just gave in. I don't know. It's Rena here. It was, the actual shrine maid in the freaking location who probably knows this place like the back of her hand. Sure. But Rena here, she seems too emotionally unstable to go on a trip with her, Maybe I'm wrong. But someone who fluctuates through emotions this quickly, obviously, that's not your frustration. If you surprise them like a birthday gift or something, that's different. But someone like this borderline emotionally unstable individual here, in good situation, okay, she was almost on the brink of tears over Rena. Satoko will get a pass because she's like 10, but Rena here, you're 14, 15 years old at this point. You don't get a pass at that point. So I wouldn't take the trip from her. Maybe Mion. I would take the trip from Mion. She seems trustworthy. And she also has a BB gun with her, which is kind of cool. Not in this sprite, though. Does she have the PlayStation sprite? Then yeah. Console. Does she have it? No, she does not. Damn. Close. The trepidation dispersed from Rena's face as it blossomed into a smile. And for confirmation, I would not take a trip from Satoko. She'd probably drug me. Well, that's because Rena's cuter than you, Mion. Also, you talk like an old man. Not exactly very attractive. It seems Mion didn't care for how rude I was to her, compared to how quickly I agreed with Rena. But her being annoyed was very interesting. So I pushed Rena forward, speeding up our pace to leave Mion behind. What a chat. Okay? Look, say what you want about monogamy and polyamory. Monogamy tends to be more stable, just as a matter of fact. I wouldn't go that far, though. Rena here is a bit, like I said before, she's a bit too emotionally unstable, but for the most part, she seems like a swell individual that we know of, obviously. If you've already read this, you've already seen this, and she can be bad shit. The only one who doesn't actually succumb to it in the original story, to my knowledge, is Mion. Am I correct in that? I'm trying to remember. I know she succumbs to it in Sotsu and Go, but I don't remember if she succumbs to it in the original. I don't think so. I believe she is the only one who did not succumb to Hinamizawa syndrome this early. It took until the sequel series to get that far. Right now, just an impromptu picnic. That's fucked up. That's actually messed up, Mion. When you know what Keiichi did, that's really messed up. I don't think she knows it at this point in the story. No, Keiichi has to tell her at some point when Rena goes batshit thinking about aliens or something.
じゃあじゃあレナ、今日は早く帰ってお弁当の準備するね。明日が楽しみ。じゃあね、ケイチくんにみーちゃん、さようなら。
Rena bounced off like she was walking on the moon. After the dust settled, all that was left was me standing next to Mion, sprawled out on the ground. There was a welt on her face.
大丈夫か？ミオンとレナの立ち位置2メートルは離れてたはずだぞ。
あんたが来て以来、切れ味は増す一方。おじさん身が持たないわ。
Yeah, Mion, I don't know if you know this, but guys don't really. I don't know if this is true for everybody, right? Maybe there are some people in the GILF community who could tell me otherwise, right? In the GILF appreciation community. I'm not a part of that community at all. Maybe you can tell me otherwise. I don't think most guys find girls who call themselves, like old, very hot. Now, mind you, nobody likes a woman in her 80s pretending to be 20, obvious, either. That's just immature at that point. You gotta learn to age gracefully. But at the same time, Mion here, you're not helping yourself. I get it, you're tomboyish, but you're taking it a bit too far. This is the 80s, Mion, come on. Maybe it'd be easier if you stop saying stuff that makes Rena want to hit you. Or else, this will end up being Mion's slapstick comedy tour. Hour. Apparently, I can't read when it's nighttime. I really should do these during the day. The problem is I do real life things during the day. I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. If that happened, the results might be fatal.
くじけるなよミオン。レナのジャブを見切れるのはお前しかいない。
私は膝じゃないかと思ってんだけどね。
Could it be that we were hanging around with an unrivaled martial arts master? Well, not martial arts, but she's really good with a sharp knife, if you know what I mean. And with glass. Don't let her near glass. Maybe someday, we'll see her debut in an extreme contact sport.
レナには負けられないぞ。ミオンも鍛えてリベンジだ。
ケイちゃんがしてよ。おじさんは応援してる。
That's foreshadowing if I've ever heard it. Okay. Mion and I reaffirmed our determination to discover a way to counter Rena's infallible technique. Higurashi when they cry. Welcome to Minhanazawa. Tips unlocked. Tips acquired. Wear a mixed grade. You don't have a uniform. View new tips. What is this?
レナってさ、俺と同い年だったよな。
うん、そうだよ。
Okay, how old are you?
も同じだよね。
Hey now, it would be weird if we were the same age but not the same zodiac animal.
そんなことないよ。誕生日の違いがあれば、年齢が同じでも干支が違うこともあり得るって。
あれ？あ、そうか。ミオン、頭いいじゃないか。
ところで、ケイチ君は何月生まれなのかな？レナは7月なんだよ。
Ernest smirked and puffed up with pride. Hey now, what's the meaning of this? She's not planning to be all high and mighty if her birthday is a wee bit sooner than mine, is she?
だが諦めろ。俺に誕生日で挑もうったって無駄なことだ。なんならどっちが年上か罰ゲーム付きで勝負してもいいぜ。
What?
なんでだろう。なんでだろう。
You're not panicked at suddenly being challenged to a wager. Given how panicked she is, I'm certain she doesn't even have much allowance left this month. It's just sending her into a panic about something as simple as a birthday is so fun I can't help myself. Neither can I, Keiichi. I agree with your plight.
ってことはケイちゃん、ひょっとして4月生まれ？
そういうこったな。残念だな、レナ。俺、 もうとっくにレナより年上なんだよ。
Keiichi, you're being a dick. Okay?
へえ、そうなんだ。じゃあみーちゃんと同い年なんだね。まあほんの何ヶ月かはね。すぐにまた差を開いてあげるけどさ。
What? No, the gap actually gets smaller. Because think about it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that I'm, I don't know, 1/8, and you are 7/8. While, for the time being, the gap seems the same. If you keep adding 1/8 to each number, eventually you're going to start getting whole numbers. And the gap itself, by percentage-wise, is a lot smaller. I don't know, Neon. For someone who's supposed to be a Japanese student in high school, you're not very smart. But then again, you are slacking in your studies to the point where Keiichi, who's a year behind you, is smarter than you. I just realized the video ended. Holy shit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is save the game. Can't save apparently. Close. Neon snickered through her nose. Hey, that's not something to get all high and mighty about, as if I'm one to talk.
そういえばミオンって上級生なんだよな。
下級生の方が燃えるってんなら今日から下級生ってことでもいいけど。みーちゃん、よくわかんないこと言ってる。
Thank you, Rena. Just by seeing Rena's blushing face, you could tell she knew exactly what she meant by it, though.
で、サトコとリカちゃんが下級生とどころか学校が違うくらいの下級生だよな。
ケイイチ君はちょっと好みの年齢が低すぎると思うな。
Maybe a little bit. You're not making any sense yourself, Rena. I'll just grab onto her head and scruff it up a bit.
やめて。
前から思ってたんだけどさ、なんでこの学校ってクラスが学年混在なんだ？
教室の数が足りないからだよ。仕方ないじゃん。営林署の建物を間借りしてんだからさ。
When she says it like that, it makes sense. I've thought our school was strange for a while now. The schoolyard is gravel, there are rooms that aren't for classes, and there's some strange sort of construction machinery parked here. Okay, can I save the game? No. Oh. Oh, I think saving is turned off during the hints. Okay.
なんで借りてるんだよ。本当の学校はどうしちゃったんだよ。
戦前からずーっと立ってたらしいからね。老朽化でね。廃校ってわけよ。
It was probably was a grand old schoolhouse.
まあそれで生徒は町の学校に通うことになったんだけどさ。遠いでしょ？どこの学校だったの？沖宮の駅前通りを抜けて病院に曲がって小児科の向かいに学校あるのわかる？へえ、遠いよ。
I couldn't tell where that was by the location, but I understood it was pretty far from Rena's reaction.
まあそんなわけでさ、沖宮の学校に通いたくない連中はこうして営林署の建物を間借りした仮校舎に通ってるってわけさ。ひなみ沢の子供の半分くらいかな。朝早くに自転車で通ってる子たちも結構いるよ。まあこんなはちゃめちゃな学校に通ってたら進学校とかはちょっと無理だろうからね。そんなことないよみーちゃん。ちゃんと頑張ればどこでだってお勉強はできるよ。
That's actually true. If you study properly, but you also need to make connections, okay? You need to go out into the world. You need to start building that portfolio called people you know. The more people you know, the more likely you are to get better. The better quality of people you know, the more likely you are to go farther in life. After all, your personality is partially based on the 5 most frequently hung out with individuals you spend time with.
お、そうだぞそうだぞ。レナとは意見が一致したな。
そうだね、そうだね。頑張ろう。せいぜい頑張ってくださいな。おじさんはささやかに応援しとりますわ。
俺たちがじゃないぞ。ミオンがだぞ。 お前受験生だろ。こんな成績じゃお先真っ暗だぞ。
That's true.
いいもんいいもん。路頭に迷ったら永久就職してケイちゃんに食わせてもらうから。
Well, Neon, you're gonna have to defeat Rena here. Unless you're proposing Momo's plan from Deliveroo, but I don't think you are.
永久就職ってなんだろうなんだろう。ほらそこ、うるさいですよ。自習は静かに。
The teacher yelled at all three of us. It was completely our fault. Satoko saw it and chortled haughtily. I stuck out my tongue at her in response. It's just as Neon says. The school has nothing to do with higher education. But it makes up for that by having lots of valuable things other schools don't. Okay. I think that's where I'm going to call it. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you all right now, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed.